"Mummy, why is Uncle Chuka touching me there?" That was the question that broke Mariam's world. It came from her 5-year-old daughter, Eliana. And it came too late. Before this moment, Mariam believed she was doing everything right. Single mother, 2 jobs, no child support, no parents alive, just her and her daughter. And Uncle Chuka, her late husband's cousin, the man who offered to help when nobody else would, the man who smiled too much around Eliana. But let's go back. To the beginning, to the lie that started everything. 5 months earlier, the sun was still rising when Mariam walked into the tiny "Face Me, I Face You" compound with her nylon bag of food. She had just returned from her night shift at the hospital, exhausted but proud. Inside her room, Eliana was brushing her teeth. "Morning, Mummy," she said with a big white smile and sleepy eyes. Mariam melted. "Morning, my baby. I bought bread and egg." They sat on the small mat, legs crossed, laughing and eating. This was peace. But peace is a dangerous thing when you trust too quickly. 3 weeks later, Mariam's problem began. She got promoted, but with a new shift. Instead of working nights, she now had to work afternoon till midnight. That meant Eliana would be home alone after school. She couldn't afford a nanny. Creche? Too expensive. She asked her neighbor, Mama Ijoma, but the woman had 5 kids of her own. Then came the suggestion from her late husband's brother on the phone. "Why not call Chuka?" he said. "He just moved to Lagos. He's your late husband's blood. You can trust him." She hesitated. Chuka was that quiet cousin from the village who used to play guitar and sing sad songs. He had always been different, but she was desperate. She called him. Chuka showed up the next morning with just 1 bag and a crooked smile. He was taller than she remembered, skin darker, beard fuller. "Ah, Mariam, my brother's widow is now shining like this," he joked. She laughed nervously. "Eliana," she said, calling her daughter, "come and greet Uncle Chuka." Eliana came out, her teddy bear in hand. She looked up at him. He bent down and touched her cheek. "Ah, this one go break boy's heart one day." Mariam chuckled politely. She didn't know then that those words were poison. At first, everything seemed fine. Chuka would pick Eliana from school, feed her, help her with homework. When Mariam returned late at night, Eliana would already be asleep. She thought, "God has sent me an angel." But angels don't stare at little girls for too long when they sleep. And they don't close doors when nobody's watching. It was a Friday night. Mariam came back early, an unusual free hour at work. She opened the door slowly, wanting to surprise them. The room was quiet, too quiet. Then she heard it, whispering. She tiptoed closer and peeked. Eliana was on the bed, sitting up, looking confused. Chuka was kneeling in front of her, shirtless, holding something behind his back. "Don't tell Mommy, okay?" he said gently. Eliana nodded. Mariam froze. Chuka stood up fast when he saw her. "Ah, you scared me." "What were you doing?" she asked. He laughed. "I was just playing I Spy with her. You know how children fear small darkness." Mariam looked at Eliana. Her daughter smiled. The tension melted, but something inside Mariam stayed cold. That night, she had a dream. She saw her late husband standing beside a burning hut. He said only one thing: "Chuka is not what he looks like." She woke up sweating. She wanted to ignore it, but the next morning Eliana refused to hug Chuka goodbye. This is where most mothers make the same mistake. They see the signs. They feel the chills, but they're too afraid to believe the truth, because the truth is heavy and loneliness is heavier. Mariam sat on the bus that Monday morning, holding her phone tight. She had just transferred her monthly salary. Rent was due, school fees were close. She looked at Eliana's picture on her screen, her smile, her innocence. Then she remembered Chuka's hand on her cheek, the whispering, the dream. Her fingers shook. She called her friend Anita. "Anita, can Eliana stay with you after school for a while? I'll pay something small." There was a pause. Then Anita's voice. "Babe, I wish I could, but you know I just had my own baby." Mariam ended the call. She made a decision. On a Thursday afternoon, Mariam's shift was cancelled. She didn't tell Chuka. She went home early again, quietly, barefoot, careful. She opened the door slowly. Eliana was sitting on the floor, holding her teddy bear. Her eyes were blank, her lips dry. Chuka was nowhere to be seen. "Reliana," Mariam whispered, "where is Uncle Chuka?" Her daughter didn't speak. "Eliana," she said again, this time kneeling. That's when her daughter whispered those words. "Mummy, why is Uncle Chuka touching me there?" Mariam screamed. The sound shook the compound. Neighbors ran in. Chuka came out of the toilet, half-naked, smelling of sweat and soap. Mariam attacked him. She clawed his face, bit his arm, broke a bottle and aimed it at his chest. It took 4 men to hold her down. She kept shouting, "You touch my baby! You touch my baby!" Chuka was silent. His eyes were dark, unapologetic, calm. "I didn't do anything," he said softly. But Eliana cried harder when he looked at her. That was all they needed to know. Mariam took her daughter and walked straight to the police. At first, the officer yawned. "Madam, now your word against his." But Mariam had recorded Eliana's whisper. She played it. The officer sat up. They called Chuka in. He laughed in their face. "You think I'm stupid to leave evidence?" They tested Eliana at the hospital. No visible damage. But trauma leaves no blood. Still, the case got dropped. No charges, no court, no justice. Mariam sent Eliana to stay with a friend in Ibadan. She couldn't sleep for days. The room smelled like betrayal. She threw Chuka's bag into the gutter, burned his shoes, but guilt sat with her every night. Not because she trusted a stranger, but because she thought blood meant safe. 1 week later, Mariam got a text message from an unknown number. It read, "You shouldn't have opened your mouth. I never forget things. See you soon." She froze. The name on the SIM card? Chuka, and outside her window that night? She saw a figure standing by the streetlight, just smiling. Mariam didn't scream. She didn't move. She didn't even breathe. The smile outside her window stayed frozen in the darkness, wide, calm, watching. She blinked. Gone. Just the empty street and the orange glow of the streetlight. Her hands shook as she stared at the message on her phone again. "You shouldn't have opened your mouth. I never forget things. See you soon." She tried to call the number. It was switched off. She locked all the windows, turned off all the lights. Then she crawled under her bed and cried. The next morning, she packed a small bag and took the first bus to Ibadan. Eliana was staying with her friend Tolu, a mother of 2 who had always been kind. When Eliana saw her, she ran and hugged her tightly. "Mummy, are you okay?" the little girl asked. Mariam nodded and forced a smile, but her eyes stayed on the window, just in case. Tolu sat with Mariam that evening while the kids watched cartoons. "This man is dangerous," Tolu said. "You need to report him again." "They dropped the case," Mariam whispered. "No evidence, no help, nothing." "But he threatened you now. That's something." Mariam shook her head. "Even if I report, they'll say I'm causing trouble." She sighed. "I just want him to disappear." Tolu touched her hand gently. "He won't. Not until you fight." That night, Mariam decided she would not run anymore. The next morning, Mariam went back to Lagos, but she didn't go home. She went to a small hotel not far from her compound. She asked the receptionist, "Do you have CCTV?" They said yes. She paid for 1 week. Then she sent Chuka a message from a new SIM card. "I'm sorry, let's talk." He replied, "In less than 5 minutes. So you finally came to your senses," she replied. "Come tonight. I'm ready to listen." He said, Room number? Mariam gave him the hotel address and room number. Then she called 2 people, Tolu's husband, Femi, a big man with strong arms and a protective heart, a female police officer she knew from the hospital, Officer Bimbo. Everything was set. 10:22 p.m. Mariam sat on the bed, pretending to look calm. Under her pillow, a small recording device. In the wardrobe, Femi and Officer Bimbo, hiding in the dark. A knock. She froze. Another knock. She opened the door. Chuka stood there, smile on his lips. But his eyes were not human. He stepped in slowly, looking around. "Nice place," he said. She didn't answer. "Why did you call me?" he asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. I wanted to understand," she said softly. "Understand what?" "Why, Chuka?" Her voice cracked. "She's just a child." He laughed. "You think you know the full story." Mariam's face tightened. "Do you think this started with Eliana?" he asked, leaning closer. Mariam stepped back. Chuka whispered, "You don't know what I've done, and you're not ready to know." She gripped her phone tighter. Chuka continued, "You think I haven't done worse? In the village, in Benin, even here in Lagos, Eliana was just..." The wardrobe burst open. Femi grabbed him. Officer Bimbo pulled out her badge. "You're under arrest." Chuka froze, then smiled again. Too late. At the station, Chuka denied everything, but this time there was a recording. His own voice, his own confession. That, plus Mariam's earlier report and the doctor's notes on Eliana's behavior. The police finally took it seriously. He was charged, remanded. And this time, the law stood beside the mother. Mariam brought Eliana back home after 2 months. She painted the walls, burned the old bed, changed the locks, but some things can't be painted over. Eliana didn't laugh much anymore. Sometimes she woke up screaming. Sometimes she flinched when a man walked past. But Mariam stayed close. She held her hand every day. She spoke gentle words every night. And slowly, Eliana smiled again. 3 months later, Mariam got a call from Chuka's elder brother in the village. She didn't want to pick, but something told her to answer. He said, "Chuka is dead." Her heart stopped. "He hanged himself in prison. They said he left a note." She didn't reply. He continued, "The note had your name and something else." She held her breath. "He said you were next." Mariam went back to the police station. They gave her a box. Chuka's final belongings. Inside were a dirty diary, a small black ring, a torn photo of him as a child. She opened the diary. The first page read, "They started touching me when I was 5. I became what I hated." Her hands shook. She turned the page. "They laughed when I cried, so I stopped crying." Another page. "I don't like what I've become, but it's the only thing I know." Mariam closed the book. She sat in silence for a long time. Mariam stood at her window that night, staring into the streetlight. There was no one there, but she spoke anyway. "Chuka," she said softly, "you died with your demons, but you will never touch another child again." She turned away. Behind her, Eliana slept peacefully for the first time in months. And Mariam made a promise to every mother she met after that. Never leave your child with a stranger, even if they carry your blood, because not all evil comes wearing a stranger's face. Sometimes it smiles and calls you cousin. Thank you for watching till the end of this story. I hope you learned something from it. Don't forget to like, comment where you are watching from, and send to people you know need this. Until next time, bye for now.